In the bustling streets of Lagos, Nigeria, there lived a beggar named Babatunde. He was a familiar sight, sitting by the roadside, his worn-out bow in front of him, his eyes pleading for alms. Many passerby dropping a few naira or some food into his bowl, unaware of the sinister truth behind his begging. Babatunde was no ordinary beggar. By night, he transformed into a wealthy businessman, using the money collected from sympathetic passerby to fund his lavish lifestyle. He owned a grand mansion in Lekki, complete with a fleet of luxury cars and a collection of expensive jewelry. He wore designer clothes and flaunted his wealth on social media. He even had a private jet which he used to travel to exotic destinations. Babatunde's mansion was a sight to behold. It had a private cinema, a swimming pool, and even a private nightclub. He hosted lavish parties, inviting Nigerians' elite to come and experience his opulence. But that was not the worst of it. Behind the glitz and glamour, Babatunde had a dark secret. He used a portion of the money collected from begging to fund a network of kidnappers who targeted the children of wealthy families, demanding hefty ransoms in exchange for their safe return. One day, a young professional named Zina, on her way to work in her latest SUV Jeep, noticed Babatunde sitting by the roadside. She felt a pang of sympathy and dropped a few naira into his bowl. Little did she know, her money would contribute to the woe that befell his own younger brother, Obieze. Just a week later, as Zina drove off to her destination, Babatunde noticed how rich she looked and started trailing her. He found out her workplace, her residence, even to her family. Babatunde got all the information he needed for his execution. He finally concluded on kidnapping Zina's younger brother, Obieze. Obieze, Zina's younger brother, was kidnapped on his way home from school. He was just 12 years old, innocent and unaware of dangers that lurked in the world. Babatunde's kidnappers, disguised as school teachers, approached him and told him that his parents had sent them to pick him up. Trusting, Obieze followed them to their car, where he was overpowered and taken away. Few minutes later, the family driver came to the school to pick up Obieze, but to his surprise, the boy was nowhere to be found. He alerted Mr. and Mrs. Okoro, Zina's parents, about the news of the missing boy, and the whole family was thrown in a state of panic. They were frantic with worry, trying to reach the school authority and the law enforcement agencies. Meanwhile, Ike, Zina's elder brother and a former soldier, took matters into his own hands. Because from all indications, it was obvious that his younger brother Obieze is being kidnapped. He tried his best to calm the entire family, assuring them that their youngest son Obieze will come back home safely. Mrs. Okoro was beside herself, praying day and night for her son's safe return. She couldn't eat, sleep or concentrate or on anything except getting Obieze back. Mr. Okoro tried to stay strong, but the weight of his son's disappearance was crushing him. He felt helpless, unable to protect his family. Few days later, Mr. Okoro received a strange call from an unknown caller, demanding a ransom of 10 million naira in exchange for Obieze's safe return. Mr. and Mrs. Okoro were desperate to get their son back, and money is not a problem to them, so they agreed to pay. The kidnappers insisted that the ransom be paid in a peculiar way. They instructed Mr. Okoro to bring the money to a remote location, an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of Lagos. Mr. Okoro was hesitant, but he knew he has to act fast. Meanwhile, Obieze was taken to a dark, damp room deep in the heart of the kidnappers' hideout. He was thrown onto a dirty mattress, his hands and feet bound by rough ropes. The air was thick with the smell of mold and decay. Babatunde sneered at him, his eyes gleaming with cruelty. "You are worth a lot of money, boy," he taunted. "Your family will pay dearly to get you back." Obieze trembled with fear, but he refused to cry. He knew he had to stay strong if he was going to survive. Days passed, or maybe weeks. Obieze lost track of time. He was fed scraps of food and given dirty water to drink. He heard the sound of other captives, their cries and screams echoing through the corridors. One day, Babatunde came to him with a phone. He asked Obieze if he knows the number of any member of his family. Obieze dialed his father's number. When it started ringing, Babatunde gave him the phone. "Your family wants to talk to you," he said, his voice dripping with malice. Obieze's heart leaped with hope as he heard his mother's voice on the other end. "Obieze, my son, we are doing everything we can to get you back," she promised. But Babatunde snatched the phone away. His face twisted in a snarl. "You will never see your family again," he spat. Obieze knew he had to escape, but how? He was trapped, surrounded by armed men and guarded doors. In the other hand, Mr. Okoro gathered the money and drove to the location, his heart racing with anxiety. But before he embarked on this deadly journey, his son Ike has begun to investigate the source of the kidnappings. The trail led them to Babatunde, the roadside beggar. He digged more and was very surprised in his discoveries. Babatunde's empire was vast. He had connections with politicians, business leaders, and even law enforcement. He was untouchable, or so he thought. As Mr. Okoro arrived at the destination given to him by the kidnappers, he saw a figure in the shadows. It was O.C., Babatunde's partner in crime. O.C. collected the money, counting the bundles with sly smile. "You will get your son back," O.C. sneered. "But don't think this is the end. We will be watching you." Mr. Okoro was relieved to have paid the ransom, but he knew that this was far from over. He drove back home, anxious to see his son. But little did he know, Babatunde had no intention of releasing Obieze. He had other plans that would put the Okoro family in even greater danger. As the days turned into weeks, the family's hope began to dwindle. They had paid the ransom, but there was no sign of Obieze. They were starting to lose faith. Zina, who had dropped the money into Babatunde's bowl just a while ago, was consumed by guilt and regret. She couldn't shake the feeling that she had somehow contributed to her brother's disappearance. But Ike refused to give up. He knew that Obieze was still alive, and he was determined to find him and bring the kidnappers to justice. As Ike continued his search for Babatunde, who has already gotten signals from people working for him and went into hiding, he received a tip that led him to a seedy bar on the outskirts of town. He entered the bar, his eyes scanning the room for any sign of the kidnapper. That's when he saw him, Babatunde, sitting in the corner, sipping a drink. Ike's instincts told him to pounce, but he knew he had to be cautious. He waited until Babatunde got up to leave. Then he followed him out of the bar. They walked for several minutes until they reached a deserted alleyway. Ike pounced, grabbing Babatunde from behind. "It's over," he said, his voice firm. "You are not going to hurt anyone else." Babatunde struggled, but Ike held tight. He called the police, who arrived soon after to take Babatunde into custody. But just as they thought it was all over, OC appeared out of nowhere, a gun in his hand. "You will never take us alive," he snarled. Ike reacted fast, disarming OC and pinning him to the ground. The police arrived and OC was taken away. The family waited anxiously as Ike went to rescue Obieze. They prayed, they cried, they hoped. Finally, the door opened and Ike walked in with Obieze by his side. The family erupted in tears, hugs and shouts of joy. Obieze was home, safe and sound. The family was whole again, thanks to Ike's bravery and determination. But the experience had left its mark. But the story doesn't end there. Babatunde's arrest exposed a web of corruption and deceit that went all the way to the top. Politicians, business leaders, and law enforcement officials were implicated in his empire, and many were brought to justice. Babatunde's story is a reminder that things are not always as they seem. That beggar by the roadside might be living a double life, using your money to fund their evil plans. So next time you see a beggar, think twice and be directed by your inner spirit before dropping that money. You never know what they might be using it for. And that's the story of Babatunde, the evil beggar who fooled everyone. May his story serve as a lesson to us all. Thank you for watching today's episode. Always stop by to watch more interesting African stories in this channel. Do not forget to like and leave your comment on the comment sections, as it helps the channel to grow. Also subscribe and turn on the bell notification so that you will be the first to be notified of my new upload. Remember, subscription is free. Till my next upload. Bye.